So I'm Adam Cortez, joined by my co-host Grant O'Callahan. We're here with another really cool interview. I suspect that a lot of people will be really excited about this one. We're joined by a close friend of mine. I've known him for close to a decade now. But you know him as Brian Barazza, member of Tinman Elite. Yeah, it's been a long time, man. I was thinking about that before we started. I've known you since I was like 13.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
it's crazy just the way that time flies and how we're here.
just how small the world is. It's crazy. But Brian, you guys know him as probably got to know him when he was running the NCAA for the University of Houston. He has become a little more famous in the running world recently as a member of Tinman. He's a steeplechase stud, certified stud in the steeplechase. Would you say so? 100%.
No denying that.
No denying that. He's also very quick in the mile, quick in the 800, and he's one of the most wholesome human beings I've ever met. So, Brian, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's always nice to chat with some friends about some cool topics.
Yeah, we talk about running, life, art. I think we're gonna have a good time. And I don't even know where to start because I have so many questions.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, before we get into more specifics about training and the Tinman lifestyle and everything, I think people would be really interested to figure out like kind of who you are as a person because you seem like such an interesting guy outside of running. I know you do a lot, very artistic man. So how would you really describe yourself in like your day-to-day life?
That's a very good first question. I think it sets a really good groundwork so everybody gets an idea of why I answer the way that I do. Yeah, good work.
All right.
I think the easiest way to describe me is I'm a pretty simple guy. I like really like tedious things that like most people don't enjoy. Like I like knitting, I like drawing, I like painting, all sorts of things that just like require dedicated effort into accomplishing. I love reading. I'm a big fan of movies, conversations, all sorts of things. It's just the simple things in life for me. I think those are the things that are most worth my time and worth my energies. And so everything that I do is kind of based out of that. That's why I run. That's like, it's just, I live a kind of selfish lifestyle because I do enjoy doing these things for me. And some of the things that bring me the most joy are also like bringing enlightenment or just challenging other people and in like causing growth for myself and others.
It's a pretty killer answer. So before we get to the running stuff, I want to ask, what's the best movie of all time? What's your favorite?
Ooh, okay. So it depends on what mood you catch me in. Right now, I'm feeling a little romantic, feeling a little wistful. I feel like I gotta go with About Time, starring my girl Rachel McAdams and my boy Donald Gleason. That is an incredible movie. It's like a romantic comedy that transcends romantic comedies. The critic in me definitely is like Shawshank Redemption all the way. And then like the fanboy in me is Lord of the Rings, Ride or Die.
Okay. That's a pretty diverse set. I've seen About Time. It's a very good movie. It's underrated.
So good, right?
It's very underrated.
Oh.
The best thing is a romantic comedy that's well acted. That's like top tier.
For sure.
All right.
Because normally they get like those actors that are like, yeah, sure, I'll do it, I guess. And then they just kind of like make their way through it and they fake it. And you're like, okay, that was a nice romp in this world. But then you get those actors that are like, we're going to give this everything. And it's just life-changing.
Right. It's like, I agree with everything you just said. And so, Brian, I've known you since you were in high school. And so I've known you a long time. Like I said, we're both from El Paso, the EP, City of the 915. I would argue that you're the most famous person. That's right, Chuco Town. It's Khalid and Brian Barazza. That's what we're known for. That's what we have.
That's some still company.
Yeah, Khalid and Brian Barazza. That's our thing. But can you kind of tell people like your journey from like kind of when you started running to where you are now? Like more, I guess, like a Spark Notes version of like how you got to where you are in Boulder running with all the Tinmen?
Yeah. Fantastic question. So it started out as these things often do because I was an incredibly hyperactive kid. I couldn't sit still. My mom was getting tired of having to deal with me. She was looking for outlets for my energy. I had been playing baseball, but my favorite part of baseball was always running between the bases. And she had a friend whose son was a thrower on the summer track team. And she was like, hey, I think that Brian would really thrive here because he would just waste all his energy, and he'd be so tired. By the time he gets home, you'd be so happy to deal with him. So I was like, yeah, that seems really great. So I started running when I was 7 years old, and I was like, at first I was a sprinter, and I did the 100, the 200, I did the 80-meter hurdles. The first event I ever medaled in was actually the turbo javelin. I threw it 84 feet for bronze at our district, like local border area association championship. And I was like, this is incredible. I like feeling like I'm good at something. I want to do this forever. But then everybody started getting a little bit older, getting a little stronger, getting a little faster, and I didn't. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to run a little bit longer than everybody else. And so I progressed up all the way until, for the longest time, I was running the 800 and the 1500. I was too young to do the 3K. Otherwise, I bet I would have done that. Eventually, I got into middle school and decided, like, okay, I'm gonna shut the summer track stuff down a little bit and start focusing on school track, because this is the quote unquote important one. I was doing the mile and the 2400. Moved all the way up into high school. My mom convinced me through the same means, go do cross country. It was, you love it, you'll have so much fun. And I was like, I'm gonna get lost and this is gonna be awful. First race, it was incredible. I got 8th place and I was like, wow, JV is so fun. Like, this is so cool. And my mom, I'll never forget, I'm coming down the home stretch, and afterwards she tells me, oh, I was so surprised to see you that high up in the race. And I was like, oh, geez, thanks, Mom. But it was that same, that passion that drove the cross country season all the way into track. Outdoor, I started feeling like I was getting really good at this for a freshman. The rest of my years in high school were kind of turbulent. I ended up with a stress fracture my junior year, came back off of it really strong with a senior year that netted me a 5th place at state in cross country and track, but only for the 2 mile and track. I ended up with a 9:05 PR in the 2 mile and a 4:13 PR in the mile. And that got me the attention of the University of Houston. So from there, I went on my visit and I was like, okay, Houston, pretty big city, really fast pace of life. I'm not necessarily used to it, but everything that I need is going to be on campus, and all of the people that I'm going to need are going to be on campus. And like, I got to meet a lot of the team, and I was like, this is the place for me. I don't need to go anywhere else. My freshman year was incredible. I set a lot of the habits that I still hold to this day that have made me the successful runner that I am. A lot of that came from being exposed to people of different backgrounds. My roommate at the time, Gabe Lara, was a huge influence on me because he actually kind of showed me what it meant to be a good runner and to do the little things right and to focus on nutrition and recovery and sleep. And when you first go to college, there's a lot of stuff there for you and it can be really overwhelming. And for me, having the close-knit team that I had really helped me not worry about anything and just put my nose down to the grindstone and keep progressing through the sport. So as college progresses, I keep asking my coach, when can I run a steeple? I want to run a steeple. And he's like, no, you're not going to run a steeple. Don't worry about it. We're just going to progress you through the 5K. I think you have a lot of potential in the 10K eventually. And so I'm like, okay, coach knows what he's talking about. And my junior year of college, I go and run the 10K. I run a really good 10K, I qualify for regionals, and I'm the first person to miss nationals. I miss it by a second. And I was devastated. And so Steve, after the race, is like, hey man, I know you're pretty bummed. If you want, I have a friend who puts on a meet in Portland and I can get you into a steeplechase. And I was like, yes, called my mom. I was like, Mom, this will be my birthday present. This will be no Christmas. Don't worry about it. If I can go now, this is every gift you could ever give me. And she's like, okay, it's done. We'll book you tickets. We'll get you out there. I show up. I have no idea what I'm doing. I had done some hurdle work way back when I was younger. And some of it still stuck around, but I had no idea how to do a water jump. And so every jump I'm landing both feet together, having to start running from a standstill after the water hit every time. And I crushed the debut. I ran 8:41 and showed Steve, hey, steeple is a good idea. I should stay in this. And it was just off of pure 10K strength. So from then on, it was okay, we're going to retool some stuff. You're going to be a steepler now. And that next year I redshirted my cross country and my outdoor season. So I only ran indoor. I ran, I had like a really big span of momentum starting from the first cross country race that I ran. I had so much going on in my head. I was like, I'm an 841 steepler now. Like I can beat anybody. And like, I used that momentum in the cross country races to like, okay, one of the biggest things that I did was I put a lot of distance on a guy who was an All-American in the 10K. And so I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Like now I have that chip on my shoulder going into the next race. And the next race was a local turkey trot, or not a local turkey trot, one in California. And in that, I was thinking the whole time, like, okay, I've run 841. I put a lot of seconds on an All-American in the 10K. Like I can run this. And I ended up beating someone who would end up becoming my future teammate in Drew Hunter. And after that, I was like, I can do anything like that. This guy is a god and I beat him. So how do I transition this going forward? How do I build on this momentum? And it culminated with an indoor mile in December. It was paced by one of my teammates. Just from the gun, we went out hard and I just threw everything I had at it and ended up breaking 4 for the first time. And so with that momentum, I transitioned it into what ended up being a 7th place finish at the NCAA championship indoor for 3K, and outdoor, I transitioned it into another really good steeple where I was a fraction of a second off of the world standard in my 3rd attempt at steeple. And so I was like, yeah, we made a good call, Steve. Like the steeple chase is what I need to be doing. The next year was rife with like fantastic results and tragedy in the form of the NCAA championship, where I was leading with 300 meters to go, went down over a barrier, almost tore some ligaments in my shoulder, and just ended up like devastated because I knew in my heart like I was going to be a national champion on that day. And a lot of what I have now comes from that race and that mentality that I took into that race, where I ran with heart. And I think the point of running races is to show who you are to the best of your ability. And I think I did such a good job of showing everybody what I had to offer that it caught the attention of the guys at Tinman. And so I ended up doing a year post-collegiately where I was still working with the team, the U of H team, and I was like finishing up my master's degree. And I reached out to the Tinman guys and I was like, hey, I'm really interested in coming out and being part of your team. I think I'd be a great fit. Like, how do I make this happen? And so I came on a visit and like immediately I was like, this is where I need to be. It was the same kind of thing that I had whenever I was in transitioning from high school to college. It was that this is a family. These people care about each other. I can learn and grow here. I can become something more than just me. And I can, in that process, make these people more than just them. And it ended up that I finished the US Outdoor Championship a couple days later, packed everything that was in my house and drove from Houston to El Paso, like talked to my parents a little bit, and then continued my way on to Boulder. And here I've been for a bit over a year now.
Yeah, that's a really incredible story.
Yeah, so the transition has been fairly easy for you from
Houston to going pro?
I mean, Houston going pro, yes, it was pretty smooth, but like leaving Houston for Boulder was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. I thrive off of connection. And so the connections that I had made over the course of 6 years in Houston were very deep rooted. And so I'll never forget, like the last night that I was in Houston, we got all of my teammates together that were still in town and we had a game night like we always did. And then everybody ended up leaving at like slightly staggered times. And so I walked every single person out to their cars and like just told them how they had made an impact on my life. And like all of these ended in tears. Like I was just crying, and then like I had to walk back up and then walk the next person down to their cars, and just like I was just dreading, because I knew it was like every single one of those persons had made such an impact on my life that I wouldn't be the same person without them. And so having to say goodbye to all of that and then show up in Boulder a couple of days later, just like raw with emotion. Just, I have no idea really who I am because I've spent so long defining myself based on the people and the place that I've been and the status that I'd had as like that guy on my team, you know? Mm-hmm. Excuse me. And so the next couple of months when I got to Boulder were actually really hard because I had this idea in my head that I needed to be somebody other than who I was, because I was like, oh, I'm kind of nerdy, I'm kind of dorky, I'm not that cool, and I think all of these guys are really cool. And so like I can't be a nerd and dorky and like have these guys still like me, because like they're really cool, and like the trope is that cool people don't like nerds. And so I'm just like I had just been there for like a month, and I was like trying to be something I'm not. And then eventually I had a conversation, I think, with like Jeff, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm not exactly this guy all of the time. And he was like, oh, well, who are you then? And I was like, oh, wow, like this is who I am. And I started like actually being who I was, and like nobody cared. They were like, okay, yeah, dude, you're still just as cool as the rest of us. And I was like, I'm a cool guy now? When did this happen? But that transition, and it took a long time. Like I took a long time to like feel truly connected and truly rooted to Boulder. And now like I'm in like, it's night and day from where I was at this point last year and to where I am now. It's just, I know that I can trust these guys with anything. And like so much of that was me. Even though I knew this was the place that I needed to be, I wouldn't allow myself to like relax into it. You know, it's like I was just spending so much time just like keeping myself tensed up, being like guarded, and there was no need for that. Like I knew that there would be acceptance here. It just took me a long time to truly allow myself to be accepted.
Yeah, I can imagine, because it's like anybody that runs competitively on a team, whatever, knows that the bond you form with the people that you train with every day is incredibly strong. And even if you're going into a group that's, you know, a better fit for you, like they're going to push you to the next level, it's got to be so hard to make that move. Like, I mean, we're about to end our college career together, and it's like we've been running for so long, and like, I can really relate to the story that you just told, because like I know it's gonna be the same kind of thing when we all leave, guys, kind of go our separate ways.
Yeah, definitely. I think if I have a piece of advice for you, is just allow yourself to be wholly you, and just trust that anybody that you find yourself amongst is going to be okay with that, because we're cool people.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah, and based off what since Adam knows you so well, he kind of figured you would be a great fit into the Tinman group.
Yeah,
it just seemed like it worked personality-wise really well.
I called that like I would like to say on air. I think I called that like 2 years early. Like like when the group formed. I remember texting you, like texting your cell phone, like in cross country of your 5th year, and I was like, dude, there's this new group. It's like Drew Hunter and a couple guys, and I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know anything about how this works, but like, I just feel like I feel like it's a good fit, guys. Yeah, and I've been saying it. Like,
yeah, no, you were totally right. Like they had been on my radar for a long time. It's just like I didn't know how it worked. You know, like there's not like a lot of material out there on like, okay, so you just finished college. Here's what you do next. You know, it's like you just kind of you get in touch with people, and you like through those contacts you're able to see how the system works. And that's like, it took me a long while to figure out like, oh, like all I gotta do is email these guys and like have a conversation with them. I was so professional too. Like I made like a running resume. I was like, this is everything I've ever done in my career, these are my accolades, and this is what I think I bring to the table. And like I sent that email out and I was like, hey, we'd love to join you guys. Like I think I'd be a great fit for your team. Like, let me know if there's a time we can set up an interview. And that's like, and then I just like got a DM back from Sam, and he was like, hey dude, what's up? I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like that's all this is? Like, sick.
That's the coolest thing about runners, is that like even at the highest level, and I haven't met like a ton of like elite runners, but literally every single one I've met is just like, they're just dudes. Like I feel like NFL players, NBA players, like to a degree, there's like a level of I don't know what the word is, but I think when you have that level of notoriety, it changes you.
Yeah, they think they're kind of above.
Yeah, not all of them, obviously. Yeah. Like there's some great pro athletes that are like use their platform for like really great things, but I think runners, for the most part, like if you DM one or you're like send them an email, they're usually really appreciative. And they're like, hey man, I like, thank you so much. Like, this is what I run for. It's really great. And so it's really cool to like see your personal journey, like go from like a high school stud to like a college runner to a college stud to like a pro runner to now like going to be a pro stud. It's just like, it's really cool to see how it like kind of how it happens so organically, like just like anything else in life. It's really cool to observe that like firsthand.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long journey, and like not all of it has been easy. Well, most of it hasn't actually, but like,
Yeah.
I like to think that it's that same like determination that allows anybody to be successful in anything. It's like you just keep showing up, to borrow Des Linden's terms. You know, you just every day, regardless of whether you feel good or whether it's awful outside or whether you're kind of just like not feeling it, you show up, and that's how that kind of determination is what gets you to.
Ooh.
Oh no.
Brian.
Personal.
Oh, there he is.
Are we back?
You there?
We lost you for a
Cool.
second there.
Yeah.
Can you hear us? Okay. Yeah, we could
You
edit
were
that
saying
out.
something really profound. So
Yeah, you were in the middle of such a profound thought.
We get that thought back.
I mean, I was just talking about like that. It's that dedication that allows you to accomplish any sort of personal growth.
Okay.
yeah, and that's what to me attracts me so much to Tinman, to you and Tinman as a whole, is that it's
That's what attracts me to.
the thing I really like about you and Tinman as a whole is that you guys have like you seem to have a really holistic view towards running, and you just seem like you all really enjoy it. Like, what motivates you to get out of bed in the morning and do 16 miles or 20 miles at 6-minute pace and hard workouts is just the appreciation for the sport. And then you also, and that's the reason why you guys are so good. And I feel like there's some people at the highest level of the sport, and it's just perception, but it just seems like they have to be really, really good at it, and they do it as like just like as a job. And I just like that you guys have a different approach, and you seem to it's just a much more enjoyable view on running, I think.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I think it's funny because like one of the things that we say most often is like the minute I stop having fun with it is the minute I'm done with it. And so like we do our best to make sure that, you know, we keep things light at practice. It's not like there is definitely like that it's time to show up and go to work attitude, but it's not like, oh goodness, like there's this heavy mantle that we have to carry while we're doing this because we have to be so serious and like portray ourselves in such like a nuanced and like professional way. It's like we're just a bunch of dudes like hanging out. We're just a cross country team that like just happens to be on the pro level instead of the college level. Like that's the way that we kind of see ourselves. And we allow ourselves to like in certain ways be incredibly professional, and we try and like, you know, have that level of, okay, look, we are trying to be one of the best teams in the world, but like this is how we're getting there, and this is our growth through it, and we're not going to hide any of that from you guys. And I think that's the thing that makes us a little different. Like, you know, we had this whole series in the summer where we were trying to like, okay, build up to Joey breaking 4 in the mile, and then he didn't end up breaking it. And it was like, it could have been easy for us to just scrap that whole thing, or trying to change the narrative to where it's like, okay, well, the focus was never on Joey breaking 4, because like then we could only show like the glitz and the glamour and the success. But like that's not how running works. Like running is filled with so many crack attempts before you actually break through. And like I think it's important for us to share part of that journey.
Yeah, I mean, speaking as like a fan of the team, like I think you hit the nail on the head, because what makes you guys so popular, I think, is that you don't filter what people see, you know. And like in the age of social media, it's so common for people, especially people with a platform, that they filter out the things they don't want you to see. Like, I'm a pro runner, so I have to be, everything I do is fast, and I always look like I'm smooth, and like nothing ever hurts, and you know, like it's always heavily edited pictures of like a 6-pack, and you know, and you guys don't do that. You guys are very not that y'all don't have 6-packs, you know, I'm sure you all do, but it's like it's very wholesome. Everything you do, it's like, you know, it's like this is the crappy part of running. This is like the failure. This is like leading up to the success, and you never shy away from like showing the process. And like when I knew you before Tinman, that's why I personally thought it would be a good fit, because it's like I think the the willingness of these guys to just be more than to be like almost above professionals, because like it takes, I think, a lot more strength to show the weak parts of running than just the strong parts. And so from my perspective, that was what made Tinman such a great fit. But I'm curious, when you started talking to these guys, what was it that right away you were like, was it just one of those things where it was like a first date and you were like, this is the person? Or what was it that really showed you they were the fit?
First date, a little nervous. Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think honestly, a lot of it was that dynamic that like I had seen a lot of these guys. I could tell like the grit from them, like these guys were in the trenches suffering, just trying to be better. And I think that like, I knew that there was a lot that I could learn. For as like much experience as I have in the sport, there's a lot that I still need to know. And I think that that's the case with every single person on this team. And you could feel that. Like I walked in and walked upstairs the first time I ever met everybody all at once, which was terrifying, by the way. But like all of these dudes who I respected to such a high degree, and I could just tell like, this person can teach me this much about this. This person can teach me so much about this. And it just like everything that I could possibly stand to learn was sitting there in one room. And like, I started thinking about like, what could I bring to the table? What can I teach these guys? What do I know that they haven't experienced? And like, I just thought it was such a good fit. And I knew that like, because we all didn't shy away from the gross, ugly parts of running, like there was going to be so much growth. And that's like, kind of at the end of the day, that's what I'm after, because I see sport as a vehicle for growth. And I have learned so much of the course of my life through running. And I know that like running in life, whenever you're pursuing personal growth, there's going to be failures. There's going to be setbacks. There's going to be things that you don't want to talk about. There's going to be the need for vulnerability. There's going to be the need to overcome that vulnerability and to have that faith in another person. And I could tell that all of it was sitting right there in that room. And I was like, this is where I need to be.
Wow. Yeah. That's really awesome. I'm glad that it like just clicked like that. Do you have a question?
Yeah.
I kind of drawn a blank right now.
So this is one question I wanted to ask, like, and I guess it would be a good segue because it kind of links to what you said. And I'm going to tell a lot of like personal experiences in this interview. So like if you're watching, that's annoying. I'm sorry, but like Brian's a friend of mine, so it's hard. You can't disconnect like, the human aspect. So one of the best pieces of advice that anyone has ever given me was, I remember on an easy run in El Paso, right after I had like just kind of come back from having anemia and basically lost a whole year after my freshman year. I remember we were on an easy run and I was basically just complaining for like 7 miles, and and you were just taking it, because you're a friend and that's what friends do. And you said that one thing that I'm trying to remember exactly what you said, because I remember like what I always tell myself. Well, essentially we were talking about how like I had struggled in running for like 7 months and I was just really down on myself. And you were like, listen, it doesn't matter if you would run 29 flat in the 10K and 14:30 in the 5K. And like the thing that matters is that like you can't be defined by just running. Like when people talk about you and people like ask what you are, you can't just be Adam the runner or Brian the runner. Like there needs to be other things to your sense of humanity, because if you could lose running like that, and you can't be defined by just that one thing. So can you tell me a little bit about like that sense of balance and how running is something you do, but it isn't who you are? Like you're way more than just Brian the runner. You're Brian the scholar. You're Brian the artist. You're Brian the comedian. You have 206 or something like that conversation starters if ever if ever it like dies down. Talk to me a little bit about that holistic balance in your life, and then how you think it contributes to your running success.
Yeah, I think that is a fantastic question. And I think it's something that a lot of people don't necessarily understand when they see, obviously we put ourselves out there on a social platform. And so they see this one aspect of us. And I think we do a better job than most showing that we're multifaceted people. And that was a lesson that I had to learn the hard way. As I said earlier, I had a stress fracture in high school, and it took me out for 2 months and took out almost my entire season. I got to run the first race and the last race. And I was like, dang, that sucked. And I had my identity so wrapped up in running that for those 2 months, I had no idea who I was. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know what I disliked. I didn't know what to do with my spare time. Everything that I was hell bent on running. And so when that was taken away from me, I lost everything. And so I was like, this can never happen again. Like, running is such a fragile thing. If I am only a runner and that is everything that I know, then it disappears, then I disappear. And I am so much more permanent than that. And so I started looking into like, what is it that I enjoy doing? And sometimes I would try stuff and be like, no, that sucks. I don't like that. But so many other things were just opened up to me. And like, this life is so multifaceted. There's so many things to be interested in, so many things to learn about. Like, why would I only learn about one? And like, I think that's where I started getting into art, and I started writing very bad poetry, and like I started writing creative works that were like, oh, this is a really bad short story. You know, like, you don't have to be good at things. And that's the thing that I had been so attracted to with running, was like, here is a thing that objectively I am good at, and everybody that I've ever met has always told me that I was good at this. So like, yeah, it's incredible. It makes me feel really good about myself. But like, I can get that through other things. And I think it's so important that people be defined by more than just what they do. You said it perfectly. I am not Brian the runner. I am Brian. And there is like a lot of things that go with that. And sometimes they're really convoluted and complex and I don't understand them. But that's the thing, is like, I'm trying to figure that stuff out. And I think that like my sense of introspection has really done a lot for me in this way. And I think that that ties back into running, because that level of my introspective nature in that way is like incredibly important for not only just the way that I train, because I don't train with ego. Like, I don't allow myself to get caught up when everybody's deciding to go, like, unless it's a race, you know, because I'm going to do what's right for me on the day. And so that having that sense of who I am outside of running allows me to be grounded. And so it's not just like, oh, if I don't keep up with this person, I'm a bad runner. And if I'm a bad runner, I'm a bad person, because there's nothing else to me. I have a lot of things to me. And I think, you know, keeping that in mind whenever things aren't going very well in running, or even when things are going well in running, it creates that balance by itself. And so that's definitely probably one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give to anybody that's really into running, is like, you can be incredibly into running. That's fantastic. That's what a lot of us do. That's what's required to be really good or to enjoy it to the levels that we do. But you are not just a runner. And so find something you like to do outside of running.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because that's a thought process that I've had so many times and struggle with, because I've had many injuries over the year as well. And it's like, when you put everything into running and then all of a sudden you can't run, it's like the question comes up of like, what am I really? And if there's nothing else that you do with your free time, then you just feel like a complete loser. And it's like, that can be such a detrimental thought process, and like, you're gonna lose your motivation. You might not be motivated to do your rehab and like cross training and stuff that you need to do to stay in shape. So I think that's such an important point, that if you have those other things to like keep you going when you're in that dark place, it can, not only does it make you a more whole person and have, more interests and more things going on in your life, it also can help you as a runner. It is like you said, that running mirrors life, and there's so many other activities that like you may not think it will help you, but like everything kind of builds on itself. Like, so like, I mean, your art, I'm sure, has also helps you with running in a way, because there's kind of skills that can transfer to both, like patience, dedication.
Sure.
It all transfers.
Definitely. That's actually something that I've maintained for years. You can ask all of my college teammates. That's something I wouldn't shut up about. Is the idea, I called it bleed through. It's like it's the idea that there are things that you learn in running that help you in life, and there are things that you learn in life that help you in running. And so since all of these passions are part of life at large, you hit the nail on the head. Things like patience, things like being okay with delayed gratification, being content in discomfort, being able to like not necessarily know exactly where you're going, but have an idea and be okay with that. Like that kind of stuff, fantastic. And I think that, it's very easy to lose sight of the fact that like running is a really small part of life. And because we care about it so much, we make it into this massive, all-consuming thing. And it doesn't have to be. It can be an incredible like power in your life, and it can empower you. It can create meaningful relationships. It can give you incredible experiences. It can take you across the world. But at the end of the day, running is just a part of life, and it is not life.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I like. It took me a long time to really understand like the gravity of what you told me that day, because like for a long, like, you know, I'm a very intense person. I think that's kind of the word that like a lot of people use.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, and it's a good thing in a lot of contexts, you know, like it's good to be somebody that goes all in on things that you care about, and, you know, surround yourself with knowledge and surround yourself with passion. But it's also a very dangerous thing, because like when you go all in into something, like the other end of all in is that there's nothing out, right? So like if you're all in on something, that if you fail, like that's everything you had and it's just gone, right? And so like for a long time in running, I struggled with that, and I know that like it takes a certain type of personality type to be able to get to the level of running where like you're doing 50 plus miles a week and 2 workouts and a long run. You have to have a certain personality type where you're very intrinsically driven, and you're very meticulous, and you take it very seriously. And I think that a lot of people that run at a high level have that personality trait of like, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to surround myself. I'm going to read books. I'm going to like go on Let's Run all the time. I'm going to like make sure I surround myself with the proper tools to succeed. Right. Saw you smirk when, when I said Let's Run. But I think that like the big step for me psychologically was when I realized that no matter how well or poorly running was going, that like it didn't really change the grand scheme of my life, you know? And like if it did, then like how much did it matter if I was running well anyway? If like the only thing that really determines how happy I am is like how fast did I run a 10K last weekend, right? So it's like I think that advice, it's so hard to implement, and it makes so much sense, but it takes so long to really like accept that, yeah, running can be an aspect of my life, but I don't think it should be everything I build my person around.
Yeah, that's it. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, and especially young runners too, I feel can just be so stubborn. I mean, we're still young runners as well, but I'm talking about like high school runners. Like if I heard that advice when I was in high school, I'd probably be like, nah, screw that, man. Like I'm just gonna run, be the best. Like, and it's hard to understand, but it really is so helpful to be balanced.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what makes you so like
it's to borrow.
Oh, you go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Okay. To borrow the way that I understand it from what my college coach had written in The Passion Paradox, by the book. Plug right there. But essentially, the way that I internalized the message of that book was to be good at something and to be passionate at something is to give it some degree of control over your life. You're going to put time into it because you care about it. And that's what we do with running. And because you're putting time into it, you're not putting time into other things. So you're missing out on things. That's just how it works. As long as you look up from what you're passionate about every once in a while and look at what you're losing and you're okay with that, then you keep going. But the second that you look up from running or whatever your passion is and you say, wait, I had always wanted to do that and I'm not doing that because of this, then you might need to start making some changes. And so that's the kind of way that I look at my life. And every once in a while, I'll make sure that I look up from running and I'm like, oh man, like I moved to Boulder, like I missed a chance to go back home, or like I missed like an opportunity to start something new in Houston, or like anything that could happen that isn't happening because of running. I'm okay with sacrificing all of that, because life is sacrifice in some small way or another. Like you're gonna lose out on things, and as long as you're okay with losing out on them, you can keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think I read a book in high school that really helped shape my perception as well. And be it for good or bad, it kind of did lead me down the path of just prioritizing running over everything. But I mean, once a runner is such a famous running book, and in the story, the guy literally sacrifices everything just for running. And as a kid, and like as a young person reading that, I was like, that's what you got to do.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna be a runner.
Of course.
Now, I'm gonna live in the woods and run 130 miles a week, and that's how I'm gonna do it.
So,
I'm gonna watch the Real Maine every day. I'm gonna play board games with my college teammates. And we're just gonna get really good at running. I think like that's a double-edged sword, because obviously like that does get people like really fired up, and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna get really good. I'm gonna work really hard, and that's awesome. But I think that like we tend to really, really, really romanticize the grind, and it's like, you know, that's not for everyone, and that's not the right advice for everyone. It's like it can get you fired up, but like one of the things that has been really important in my training is like having the like tempering my desire to be the best with what I know I need. And like if you're a high school kid, you don't necessarily know that, and so you were just like, I just got to work out really, really hard, and so you crush yourself into oblivion, and then you're like struggling with injury and like malnutrition possibly, and like, you know, if you have your identity all wrapped up in it, now you can't run. Like there's all sorts of mental health issues that come with that. And so it's like, you know, you kind of have to again like take that step back and be like, okay, is this right? Is this what I need? Is this what's good for me? And it's a hard line to learn and a hard lesson to learn, but I hope that, you know, maybe some of the people listening to this would learn it vicariously through me and not have to go through all the hardships that I did in order to figure this out.
I hope so too. I think that can be the best. That's the best way to use your platform, I think, is to help other people. And you've always understood that. And I think a lot of the guys on your team understand that. And I have a question, but before I ask the question, we're going to grab the charger from my backpacks. We're chilling at 14%, and I don't want it to just go black. So we're going to edit this out when we upload it probably, but we might keep it, you know.
Cool. So I can say all sorts of awful things right now. And then
right.
Tell us how you really feel.
If you want to expose your teammates, now is the chance.
Jeff got a haircut and he looks really nice. We took some pictures the other day and Aaron looks like a supermodel. Yeah.
I knew that already. I haven't seen the pictures, but I believe you.
That one? Oh,
no, I haven't seen it, but I've seen Aaron before.
We are actually, we are actually doing a cool project. We're putting out a lookbook of like a whole bunch of the stuff that's going to be in the winter collection. If you haven't signed up for it, you should sign up for like the newsletter, because there's a lot of really cool stuff that's going to be in it. Each of us was tasked with writing up to 250 words. And so they'll be accompanying our pictures, and it could be anything. And so I know I wrote some cool stuff. I know the guys in my house wrote some cool stuff, and I'm really interested to see what the rest of the team wrote, because I don't know yet either, but it's going to be cool. I'm really excited about it. I've been more excited about this than most of the things that we've done. It's like, so cool. It was like during quarantine when we were Skyping with all of those like different teams, and then like this.
That is so cool. I saw that when we applied for that, I think. Didn't you apply for that?
For like the little video thing with the team? Yeah, I did. Yeah.
We didn't get it, but we tried though.
Okay.
We tried. We're getting it now. Yeah,
that's true. You got it now.
We got it now. But what was I thinking? I had a thought, but
so this question.
What?
This question that you had.
I'm gathering it in pieces. We need to get Tinman stuff, by the way, at some point. We need to get like a shirt or something. But
that's the cool thing about you guys' merch too, is that there's such a like personal aspect to it. Like, obviously there's so much input from all you guys into it. It doesn't feel like just like, I don't know, Bauer maker is like, no, this looks sick.
Yeah.
Like your gear does look sick, but it also has a personal touch to it too.
With the handwritten letters as well. I think that's so cool.
I think that's like one of my favorite things is like, I love being able to write those letters and like think about like I know how important it was for me when I got my first Tinman shirt to feel like I was a part of something and to feel like I was like I belonged on this team. It was huge. It was like everything that I needed, and I wore that shirt so much. I still wear that shirt a lot. I love it. But like I like to think while I'm writing these, like, one, I try and be like kind of funny and kind of like personable, and like I put a lot of effort into writing these notes. I like the last set that we did, I wrote like 400 and all of them had different questions, because I was hoping that like people would get them and then like write their answers and then like at me or DM me about them. And I was like, now I'm gonna have so many cool answers to these questions. But like more than that, I love thinking about like the people that we're able to impact with this, and like I know how strong this shirt makes me feel, and the idea that I'm able to give it to somebody else and like make them feel that strong as well is like incredible to me. That's one of my favorite things.
I like that.
Yeah, that's extremely wholesome. And And that actually kind of reminds me of something to ask you about is on the side, don't you do coaching of
Hammer and axe.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, actually,
Yeah.
I want to compound on that question before you answer it. And that I think it's important to note because I don't think you'll say it because you're very humble. So your training plan is geared towards people that have just started running, and I think you're one of very few that like tries to go for that. And without going too much into it, I want you to answer his question, but also be sure to talk a little bit about why that's important to you to target that group of runners.
Okay, sounds good. So the Hammer and Axe training platform was kind of geared towards trying to provide a service that is kind of needed. A lot of people are trying to run and don't necessarily know which direction to go in, and they're like just following stuff that they find on online forums or just books they've read or just hearsay, like, oh, I heard this is a good workout, or they read Once a Runner and they're like, I'm gonna go do 6400s, like that kind of thing. So the idea was kind of like, okay, how can we use the experience that we've garnered for, in my case, 18 years to be able to like help people in their current journey? And so that's where everybody's coming from. Myself in particular, I think it's really important because at this point, especially in the US, we have this idea about running as like, it's, oh, I only run if something's chasing me, or, oh, I only run so that I can eat pizza later. And it's like, so many people have this twisted relationship with running where it's something they were forced to do in PE forever ago, and now they hate it, or it's just not everything that it could be for them. And that's why it was really important for me to target a group of people that are just getting into running, or maybe they've had some hiatus and are just coming back to running. Like, I want them to be able to change their relationship with running. Like, that's what's most salient for me. I want people to love running the way that I love running. And maybe not to the same extent where they're trying to pursue incredibly high performance. Maybe they just want to finish a 5K, or maybe they just want to, push themselves a little bit further than they did the last time, because that's how it happened for me. And I think the opportunities that running has given me, the community that it's granted me, the ability to go across the world and compete. Like, I don't necessarily think that anybody I coach is going to do that, but the opportunity to hang out at a local 5K and get involved with the community and feel like you're a part of something bigger than yourself, I think that's so important. And it can give people so much light and joy in their life. And it doesn't have to be this thing that everybody dreads. Like, oh, I've got to go for a run. I want to be able to fire people up to where they're like, yes, I get to go for my run. This is awesome. Like, that's what I want.
Yeah, it makes me chuckle because I remember we had an interview a couple days ago with CJ Albertson, who's a marathoner for Brooks. Yeah, he's a really cool guy, and he said more or less the same thing, just like in a different way, because he coached at community college, and he talked about how his relationship, it kind of was your last two answers put together. He said that like his relationship with his athletes and the fact that he coaches them brings him so much like confidence in his own running, and it brings balance to his life. And he feels like he gains so much from seeing his athletes grow as like, whether it's from a 24-minute 5K to a 21-minute 5K, or from a 16 to a 15, he just like sees them grow, and it gives him like the strength to run a little bit faster. And it was interesting that you guys kind of had that in common.
I definitely get that, because like, I think that there's this dynamic where, because I'm a professional runner and because I'm surrounded by professional runner and all my friends are professional runners, like I'm just in this bubble, where elite and high performance is the goal. And like, suffering is so normal to us that we don't think about like a hobby jogger going out and running 5 miles or 3 miles is suffering just as much as we are on an 19 mile long run at 6-minute pace. Like,
right.
It's the same kind, and like, it's that love and devotion, but they don't have the flashiness of it. So isn't that like just as pure, if not more pure, love for the sport than what we're doing? And so it's like, I find it like a breath of fresh air, and it's like to be able to help these people pursue that goal and hit that benchmark, or push a little farther and feel good about themselves and what they're doing. Like, that's so refreshing to me.
Yeah.
So I
It's such a it's such a great way to be like a good ambassador to the sport, and and to just running as a whole, not necessarily just competitive running, but helping people get out there and break through their own goals is such a great thing. And we're just so quick to forget like what it was like when we weren't as good at running, and like looking at people that are faster than us and like how much respect we had for them. It's like we can all be ambassadors to the sport, just by helping people that are earlier on in their journeys with running. And I remember when I was in middle school and just thinking that breaking 5 minutes in the mile was the craziest thing in the world, and that like only the elite could do it, and how my perception has changed so much. So it's just a cool way to help out the sport.
Yeah, and I think that like going even a little further, I think even a lot. I mean, this is I don't know that I'm allowed to say this. It's probably gonna be kind of controversial, but here we go. I just I feel like a lot of pro runners kind of miss the mark on what it is you're doing. Right? Because like yes, there's the way I look at it. There's two aspects, right, to what being a pro runner is. One, run as fast as possible. So obviously that's the main goal. But the second thing is there's a reason that shoe brands want to be associated with a specific athlete. And that's because they want to use the athlete to market their product or market their mission statement or try to make a wave in the sport, right? And I'm so disappointed in the way that a lot of pro teams choose to handle these crazy top 0.0001% athletes and put them in a tiny bubble, be very secretive, be very standoffish, right? Because like, yes, you're trying to run as fast as you can, but I think a lot of pro runners miss the mark of like you're supposed to be an ambassador for the sport, representing this brand that has chosen to link themselves with you. And so that leads me into a pretty good question of like, how is it being an Adidas athlete?
That's a good question. I think Adidas has like a lot of really interesting things that they're doing right now, and I have recently been feeling like a really big part of it. I've been involved in a couple of calls where I was talking to like Adidas futures and stuff like that, and they're trying to like use me and my experience and like the connection that I have to the people that are interested in the sport in order to give the people more of what they want. And so like I think Adidas is doing a pretty good job. They put on events, they host meets. Like one of my favorite things they do is like Adidas Parlay, which is their like sustainability efforts, and they're like really geared towards environmental impact and how their role as like a multi-billion-dollar company is like a major factor in how the rest of the world deals with these kinds of things. And like I think Adidas as a company is doing a pretty good job. And I'm not just saying that because they pay me. So
have you run in the Audios Pro?
Dude, I have done like 2 workouts in it. I swear I had the best tempo of my life. And I did like 6 miles and averaged like 5:02 or something like that. And I was like, all right, now I'm ready to do hill sprints. Like it was great.
Yep. That I got that for Grant for Christmas.
Yeah, those things are amazing.
Yeah. I know.
But man, you could smack some workouts in those things, man.
They're insane.
Yeah,
I'm not just saying that.
Yeah, they're awesome. And I think that like that's another great question that we can kind of go with is obviously the landscape of running technology has changed in the last 3 years more than I think it had in the previous 30. I think you can make that argument. Yeah. So I'm a little curious, how do you view I guess all ends of the super shoe spectrum? Do you think it's good for the sport? Do you think it kind of neglifies current performances? Like, how do you feel about it?
I'm conflicted. I think most runners are the pendulum swings back and forth, like whether they think it's, oh, this is cool, it's innovative, it's the same thing as when we went from leather spikes with inch nails driven into them to like the synthetic spikes that we're wearing now. Like that kind of jump has happened. Like who's to say that our ability to run so fast hasn't come from the innovations of Mondo tracks and like current training methods, and then on the other side of the coin, it's like, well, how far is too far, and so it's just right. I struggle to know where the line is. I think in my experience, they don't make much of a difference for me and my like area of expertise. You don't get a whole lot out over the course of a 5K or even a 10K, really. It's like this kind of thing makes more like an astronomically large impact when it comes to marathon. And that's if you're a high responder to the shoe. I don't know where the line is. I don't really think anybody really does. And I think that's kind of what is at stake. And that's the argument. That's what everybody keeps getting into let's run message board fights about. These shoes, like, they're incredible. They have advanced what we think is humanly possible. Like, we saw a sub 2-hour marathon in them. And like, we've seen all sorts of incredible performances out of the Adios pros just in the past like month and a half they've been around. But I go back and forth. I don't run them often. I don't intend to compete in them ever. So, but who's to say in 10 years I won't be a marathoner being like, all right, strap them up, let's go.
They'll be about this big by then.
Yeah. We'll see if anybody changes the ruling on the stack height, and maybe we get some stilts out there.
Yeah. Nah, I like you said about like where
You draw the line. That was kind of always my thing. And I think the shoes Kipchoge wore for the sub 2 is definitely a little bit beyond what I would consider fair. When they talk about like, oh, there's 5 carbon plates and 3 air pockets, and they're 60 millimeters. It's like, I don't know if that's really fair, but I like where we're at now with it. I think everyone's kind of gotten used to it, and for me, they've helped me so much in training. That's my main thing, is they're helping me to stay healthy, and that's what, like, to me is like what's going to be really good for the sport. It's like people can recover better and just, do more races potentially. So I like that aspect.
Yeah, but I mean, even so, like, there is a level of that that's like, okay, how much of that is natural? Like, how much of that should we allow? Like, if you have some dude that, like, his whole thing is like, I'm just going to go and run a whole bunch of local road races, make $300 a pop, and now instead of being able to run like 3 or 4 every month, like now I'm showing up to everything and I'm totally fine, and now like they're taking opportunities away from other people. It's like those kind of things where you get in the weeds, and it's the subtleties and the nuance of it that it's like, oh, I don't know. It's hard to make a sweeping declaration as to whether it's good for the sport or bad for the sport. Right.
And I think that it's impossible really to try to be like either one extreme one way or the other. And I think that's how it is in every aspect of life. You can't be an extreme of any sort. But my stance has kind of softened on super shoes recently. I mean, it'd be hypocritical for me to be like, they're bad because I own like 3. But but what has kind of changed my perspective is like, I train with Grant, and like, he's super freaky talented. Like, he's a very talented runner. He's very fast, super driven. And the only thing that's ever really been able to stop him is just like not being able to run. Right. And so like, since he's really started training in the shoes and is able to, like, I don't know if it's because of the efficiency boost or just maybe just purely the stack height mixed with like the fact that you can still run fast in them. But for whatever reason, they don't really hurt him anymore. Like, as much as, and like for me as well, I can do workouts that maybe I couldn't do before, but the big gains are made the day after, that I can like go get an easy run, or I can still go do a long run, and I can get to the next workout without feeling like my knee is about to like fall off. So I think that's where, the bonuses and races, I get why that annoys people, especially if you don't have the money to just go drop $250 on a shoe that you get to run, running once a month. I get that. And I'll always sympathize with that. But I think that anything that can help runners train at a higher level that is not, cheating, I'm all for that.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I think it's just like, at this point, it gets kind of hard to say like, what is cheating? Like,
that's true.
I'm not saying necessarily that the shoes are part of a gray area, but like, if we were to, instead of talk about shoes, we're talking about supplements, and like, we're applying the same logic. It's like, oh, well, if you do a supplementary L-carnitine injection, like, that'll help you recover. And it's like, that's not right, and it's just like, there are some things that give me that immediate like, oh no, nah, that's not right. And then there are things that it's like, are these shoes really that like big of a deal? Is it that like groundbreaking to the sport where it's like, now this is like a wrong thing where we shouldn't do it? Like, I don't know if anybody will.
Yeah. I mean, I think that time will tell, but I do think the stack height regulations were a big step in the right direction. I think that mitigated a lot of the issues, right? So you have an interesting platform, and opportunity where, and I suspect you'll have this platform one day, but so you went to a school that had very little distance running history, but had a lot of track history. And one thing that used to irritate me was when I would hear people say, like, why did Brian go to Houston instead of Portland or Oregon or whatever? And like, he could have gone to this or that, or Houston has a good distance guy. How? Like, can you talk a little bit? Can you talk a little bit about, like, I guess the security of being able to make that decision? I'm sure having Magnus helps, and then like I guess just the understanding that, like, you can run fast anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really put it any better than that. Like, honestly, my high school and early college career was defined almost by this naivete where I didn't know anything. Like, in high school, I made a huge jump from my freshman year to my sophomore year, where I was like a 4:44 miler to a 4:22 miler. And then I was like, all right, senior year of high school, I'm going to break the world record in the mile. It's going to happen. Like, that's just how this works. And like, I didn't know any better, And so, like, I didn't necessarily know what was out there. I didn't really keep up with anything. And so I like had heard of Oregon, like I had seen Without Limits. I had seen Prefontaine. I was like, yeah, Oregon's really cool. And then I like talked to the coaches in like my local area. Like I had talked briefly with the coaches for UTEP, and like I had talked to the coaches at A&M and to UT. And I was like, it's so much more than just the coach and the program and like where you're living. It's the experience. And so I started thinking, like, what do I need, and what is going to give me the best chance of living a happy life? And because obviously this was right after I had this stress fracture, and I was newly awakened to the thought that, like, I've got to be a person. I can't just be a runner. And so, like, I'm thinking holistically, what's gonna give me the best shot of being happy? Because that's what I want. I want to be happy. I want to grow as a person. What's going to give me that? And the answer for me, which would have been different for a lot of other people, may have been different if I had a different approach in things, was Houston. And at Houston, there was this mentality of like, I don't care. I don't care if this is Houston. I don't care if this is Oregon. I don't care who's towing the line with me. I'm going to be the best version of myself that I can be. When it came to academics, I thought, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. I could go to an Ivy League school, get a community college level education. I could go to a library and get an Ivy League education. If that's what I wanted and that's the effort I was willing to put in, that's what I would get. And I took that mentality into athletics. And I was like, I'm going to outwork everybody. And if that's whether that I'm outworking incredibly talented people on the Oregon team, or whether I'm outworking everybody on the University of Houston team, because that's where I ended up. I brought this mentality of like, I may not have an incredibly large budget. I may not get to go to the best races, but almost all of my PRs from college were from Texas. I had gone to local meets. I had gone to A&M and run indoors. Like, my steeple PR was from a rice meet where I did it alone, except for my graduate assistant coach pacing for like 800 meters. Like, you can be good anywhere. You really can. And I think that, like, when I started gaining traction my fifth year, and I was like in the talks for a national championship, like I was in that conversation, like the thoughts around me like were, I'm just going to go and do what I can and be the best version of myself every day so that I can be the best version of myself when I toe the line in Eugene. And I don't think it would have been any different if I had done that anywhere else. It's the mentality that you bring with you into and out of these events that makes the difference. And sure, things may have been easier if I had gone to a different university. Things may have been harder. All I know is that it worked out for me, and I put the effort in to be where I am now. And I think that regardless of where you go or what institution you end up at, like, you can be an incredible athlete or you can do nothing. And it's just how much you're willing to put in.
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that, man, because I feel like people, especially high school runners, they have this perception that due to like the heavy romanticization of schools like Oregon, and honestly, it's mainly Oregon that's been romanticized so heavily. They think those are like the only good schools, like Oregon, Colorado, whatever. And they don't, and they chase that like kind of notoriety, but they don't think about what's going to make me happy. Like, what coach do I connect with? And his training, does it fit like what makes me feel strong? And like, do I like my teammates? And it's like, wherever you're happiest is where you're probably going to run the best. So I think that's such good advice for young runners, like trying to make a college decision. Just you gotta really follow your heart, honestly. It seems like that's exactly what you did. And like look at how successful you got because of that.
Yeah, I mean, you always perform best when you're happy. And so like if you're stressed out about school, like that's going to take up emotional bandwidth. If you're stressed out about your relationship with your coach, your relationship with your teammates, your relationship with your girlfriend, anything, like that's going to stress you out. It's going to take away from what you possibly could do. And I think, you hit the nail on the head. We romanticize these programs. Like we romanticize D1. Like Sydney,
sure.
my roommate, one of the best runners in any division history, and he did it at D2, and like he was way happy with his situation for a long time. And like, I think that there's this idea that if you don't go D1, you're somehow failing, and I think that's, frankly, it's stupid. I think that I've had a lot of friends that maybe weren't necessarily on the face of it the caliber to go D1, and they've gone D2, D3, NAIA, and been so much happier. And like that was one of the things that I first realized when I went to college, was that there is a place for everybody to run in college. It may not be what they expected, what they have always dreamed about, or even what's on their radar at the moment, but if you want to run in college, there is a place for you.
Yeah, and I mean, like one of the great things about distance running is that all you need is a coach you believe in and a group of guys. That's really all you need. Like you could be training in the worst possible conditions, like Houston or the South Louisiana
or Louisiana.
Right, exactly, where it's 94 degrees with 100% humidity, and like we have that kinship of like having run in the humidity, but like it doesn't really. And you ran 8:32 in college. He's run 3:47, and he's still competing. Like you can run fast anywhere. It's just like, are you willing to work hard? Do you like your teammates? Do you have a good relationship with your coach? You nailed it all, and I think that's one of those things that like is so hard to understand until you're a little older, I think. But like if I just got lucky. I went somewhere where I ended up being a good fit.
Yeah,
but like. Yeah, coming out of high school though, like I was not informed. I just like I don't know how I got in the situation I'm in now, but it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like my situation, obviously, like I talked a little bit earlier about like having that naivete, and like I had people around me that like pushed me in the right directions. Like I was terrified. I in some ways wanted to stay at home and go to UTEP, and my mom was like, if you go to UTEP because you're afraid, I will kick you out of the house. And I was like, all right. And like, that's what I needed, like I was content to just like, be like, I'm too afraid of what could be. So I'm going to stick with what I think I know, and like, it ended up that I ended up being pushed in the right directions and being incredibly fortunate, being surrounded by incredibly good people. I got roomed with a really good runner my freshman year, and like together we grew into really good runners as a unit, But like, there are a lot of people that get stuck in situations that aren't necessarily right for them. And to those people, I feel like what they need is the bravery to change, because I was always like of the idea, like if I go to a university, I'm there for good. Like I'm graduating from there, I'm getting a master's degree from there. And that is what I did. But if for whatever reason, the University of Houston ended up not being the right place for me, I would hope that younger me would have the bravery to be like, I want to transfer, because I know that like that's a hard thing to do, and being able to grow and realize that a situation isn't right for you is part of maturing as a person and as an athlete.
Yeah,
and it's also like so hard to rise above the influence of other people that say if you have like a offer from a small school, like be it D1, D2, whatever, and it's a better fit for you, but you're also getting offers from like, not even offers, but like maybe like a walk-on position to like a Power 5 school, and like everyone's like, dude, like why wouldn't you go to? For me, it was like UGA. It's like, why wouldn't you go to UGA? It's such a good school, blah blah blah. And it's like, and then when I decided to go to Southeastern Louisiana, everyone's like, oh, what are you, some kind of idiot? Like, they just ended up being like the best possible thing I could have done. And now, years later, we're in a position where I think we would spank UGA. So, like, you never know what's going to work in the long run, Yeah,
well, I applaud you for being able to make that decision. Like, that is definitely hard. It's the D1 programs have this air of seduction around them, where it's like this is a place
For
that
sure.
everybody talks about. This is a place that gets to go to every meet that they want to. They have all of the resources. They got this shiny weight room. They got this new track. They got X, Y, Z all the way. Like, you know, but it takes a certain level of, I know I can trust myself. I can trust this program to be able to go somewhere else. And so I understand how hard that is. Good job. Seems like it's worked out for you.
Yeah, it has.
I think so.
Met me, and you know.
Yeah, that was the main thing.
So, can you talk to me a little bit about what the average day in the life of a Tin Man is like? I think a lot of people would be curious to know.
Yeah, for sure. So usually what we'll do is we have workouts twice a week plus a Sunday long run. The workout days end up being workout, go home, eat food. Maybe if you're lucky, nap. I can't nap. For whatever reason, when I'm awake. That's it. So I spend a lot of time reading or drawing or working on little secret projects that we're working on sometimes at Tinman. We got cool stuff coming out. But then later in the day on workout days, we'll have a weight session. And then afterwards, we'll have like a double. A lot of us run twice on most of us run twice on workout days and long runs, which is a grind, but it is like it's necessary. We have team meeting once a week where we talk to our coach and like talk about anything that pops up. We talk about different races and what the forecast of the world is like right now, which has been super helpful. And all of that happens like virtually nowadays, but it is still cool. When things were a little bit more normal, we would go and go to restaurants after our team meetings and go hang out and either just talk about like team stuff or, you know, just boys being dudes. Then we also have a reset session in addition to our weight sessions. And some of the guys still work. Most of us have peppered in throughout the schedule our meetings with our clients for the Hammer and Axe training that we do. A lot of guys work directly in the business side of things for Tinman, whether that's like forecasting or like product management, any sort of creative design stuff. That's kind of it. Sounds like a lot, doesn't feel like a lot all the time, but also sometimes it feels like a lot.
Sounds like a lot, yeah. Like in you guys' workouts,
Is a lot of it done kind of, you feel like within yourself, or are there a lot of days where you kind of have to go into the well and go all out? I'm kind of curious about that.
I think it's like, for me personally, it's all done within myself. I think sometimes some guys get carried away, but that is also just my perspective. Like it's impossible to know whether they're well within themselves. I would suspect that most of them are. I am kind of strange. I'm a guy that works out a little bit under where my fitness is. And so like, it's just a little bit harder to gauge. It's like, all right, well, I'm getting dropped. It's cool. See you later. I'm good with that. Like, and that's why I mentioned earlier, like training without ego is so important for me, because like, if I were to train with ego, I would be hammering to keep up with those guys. I'd be putting in race efforts all the time, and I just end up hurting and just not enjoying the sport. But I think like everything that we're given is given effort based. And so I think we do a pretty good job of not getting carried away. It happens sometimes. It would happen anywhere, anytime with any group of people. You know, you just get excited. It's like, oh, we're doing so well. Like, let's just keep pushing. It's fine. But I think, you know, part of being a professional is resisting that urge and being like, okay, let's rein it in a little bit, because, you know, when you get to a certain level, it's not about motivating you to work harder or push harder, because like we do that ourselves. And so like the role of our coaches becomes like, okay, whoa, chill out. We're gonna go harder next time. And that's where the idea of like the whole Tinman keep the ball rolling thing comes from, is this idea that like you want momentum. You don't want like, oh, I had like 2 really good weeks and then I had to take a week off because this hurt. And then like I came back and like I came back too hard and had 1 really good week, but then I was out again because this hurt. And it's much better just to be like, I had C+ to B- workouts and long runs all the way. It's like, that's consistency. I'll take that every day. So I think, to answer your question 100%, I think we do a pretty good job of running within ourselves.
Can you like explain a little bit too about what it is y'all's training is based in? Like, I know it's a lot of fartleks, but that's pretty much all I know about like the bulk of what your training is. Like, I'd be curious, and I'm sure a lot of other people would, to know kind of what it is y'all do.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is fartlek. We also mix in some tempos. There's a lot of days where we do some quicker stuff to get the like nervous system a little primed. The one thing that I think is really cool and really interesting about our workouts is it's never just show up, run 6 by mile, cool down, go home. It's always multi-leveled. So it's like, okay, you have the bulk of your workout, and it's not always necessarily at the beginning. Sometimes it's in the middle or at the end. And then you have like strides or hills and strides. And it's like just really interesting to see the way that Coach Schwartz will like fold all of these things together. Like the man, he knows what he's doing, obviously. But I think that's the coolest and most interesting thing about the way that we do things is nothing exists in isolation. And that's, I love that, because like you're never just running, like if you're running a 10K, there's part of it that feels like a tempo. Then there's part of it that definitely feels like strides. Then there's part of it that definitely feels like hill sprints. And so it's like really cool to have all of that built in to train your system. So you're used to it, you're strong. And that's the thing, is we all get really strong and we're able to keep that going at the end of races where we're like, man, everything sucks. I just want to stop running. And like, I have 100%, like my PR in the 5K at BU with a K to go. I'm sitting there like, I don't even know how fast I'm running. All I know is I want to step off this track. It is so hard to keep going. And I'm thinking, no, man, this is every tempo. This is every CV rep that I've done. This is and like, I get into the point where it's like, okay, 600 go, you start picking it up. 400 go, another gear. 200 to go. It's everything you got. And the whole thing I'm thinking over that last 400 meters is, this is every hill sprint I've ever done. This is every stride I've ever done. I need perfect form the way that we've practiced for forever. And I think that's one of the things that's like super cool, is it really folds all of these things together and gives you the complete package on race day.
Cool. Yeah. So Brian, are there any races coming up for you?
Yeah, actually, funny that you mentioned that. I am going to be racing very soon. I'm going to be doing a 5K. Most of the team is either doing a 5K or 10K at the LA meet in December. Looks like it's December 4th and 5th, maybe 5th and 6th. I don't know. I booked my tickets a while ago.
Woohoo! That was fun.
Yeah.
Exciting.
What, you have a goal?
Hopefully, I've always got goals. So I've got multiple. The way that I approach goal setting is like, what is going to be a win to me on the day? And I don't think that winning has to be finishing first. Obviously that's like, oh, cool. But I've won races and been like, that wasn't really a win. Like there were more things that I could have done. But I definitely, in this race, a time goal that I would love to hit be anything under 13:20. When I run under 13:20, my college roommate has to get a tattoo on his butt. And I am so looking forward to that day. He's going to regret that he bet that way back when, freshman year. I can't wait. But more than that, I want to put myself in a position to do something big, and I want to take a chance and trust myself over the last K. If I can do that, it'll be a win regardless of what I run.
Yeah, we'll be very excited to watch. I was curious, how long has it been since your last race?
Excuse me?
When's the last time you raced before this one? I'm sure it's been kind of a while, huh?
Oh, yeah, it has definitely been a while. I ran a mile in Nashville. That's the last time I raced. That was beginning of October, maybe? No, farther than that. Beginning of September, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So that's more
quarantine
than a lot of people.
Strange.
Right. Months turn into years.
Before
So
that
it's
was
just
a long time, though.
Right.
Before that, we did a time trial mile up here at altitude, and that was like the last time I ran. Before that was the 5K, or no, the 2 mile at USA's indoors, which was like March. So like it's I've had a couple of hard efforts, but nothing that I think is like really on par with what we're gunning for. But I mean, that's part of being a professional, is being able to show up when it counts.
right. I mean, that mile time trial you did was awesome. That the one that was with Joey, right?
I was with Joey. Yeah, that was so much fun. And like I like, that made me feel like I was like, I'm a 355 guy. Like I can't touch me. I need to get in a race now. And obviously things didn't really go anywhere from there. But it was definitely like one of the things that I find so awesome and so endearing about this team. Like I felt it at least twice, two very noticeable times. The first being the US Road 5K champs when I ran that with Jeff and Aaron and Sid. Like coming down the last 200 meters, all I was hearing was Aaron Templeton runs like incredible debut. I'm just hearing him battle it out for the win. And I'm like, that's my teammate. Like he's killing it. Like this is awesome. And like it empowered me over the last 200 meters. And the same thing, like I know how much Joey has improved and like how on paper, like he's not where he wants to be, but like the way that he trains and the way that he conducts himself and like the way that he nails all the little things, I know he's so much better than he is on paper. And it's like, this was like the first time that it was like, he showed up and he showed everybody that he was as good, if not better than like most other professionals. And so it was really cool, even though like, it's hard because it's an altitude race. And so it's like, it's a lot of conjecture of like, oh, how fast could we have run? But like, I wholly believe that like we both would have been sub 357, It's like that kind of thing, just to feel that energy and be like, oh my gosh, Joey just had a huge day. I'm like, I don't even care how I did. Like, I was just so stoked for him. It was so cool. So I definitely, those are like the moments that really do it for me. And that's what I'm looking for in California, is just having a race with all of the guys again, where it's like, okay, like who's going to show up today? I think a lot of it is going to be me, but I also want other people to do really well.
That's an awesome energy, like a mindset. I'm hoping to channel that Joey energy when I'm racing in a couple weeks. So hopefully, I'm trying to do the same thing, to like kind of run a time that on paper seems like absolutely impossible. So we'll see how that goes.
A lot of people counting him out.
We'll see. I don't want to talk about it too much.
Yeah.
But one thing that I'm curious about is like, what's your plan going into the Olympic year? Or like, not necessarily plan. Obviously, you can't really make plans right now. But like, what's the general course of action?
I mean, honestly, because things are so uncertain, I'm just going to prep and get as fit and as strong as I can and allow myself to be as mindful as possible with the process. And through that, roll with the punches. Because that's like, you get too set on any one thing happening, you're going to ruin yourself, because, things are so up in the air right now. Like,
right.
I personally believe that we're going to go on another lockdown really soon. And so like, that's going to throw a wrench into a lot of possible races. And like, who knows how long that's going to last. So, I'm just going to get 13:10 fit if I can, and see how it translates over to steepling, because right now it's really hard to get into a steeple. They're not being hosted. So I don't know how that's going to affect the way that USATF decides to do things, but all I can control is myself and my efforts. And so I'm just going to keep putting the effort in. That's all I can do.
Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it. Everything's so crazy uncertain, and like races are coming at a premium now. Like races have always been special, but now it's even more so. Like, well, I better race as soon as possible and as much as possible, because I don't know when everything's going to go to crap. And so it definitely adds, like, every race has that next level of like, I gotta run fast here. Like this might be my only shot for who knows how long.
Right.
So I mean, all we can do is just be prepared.
Excuse me?
That's definitely true. I think that poses a lot of interesting challenges too, because like there is like an added sense of pressure. If there are only 2 races, this year, I got to do something big at them. Both, like I don't get too many tries. And so the way that I just want to deal with that is like make sure that when I show up at these races, I'm as present and as like in the moment as possible, because that's how I handle dealing with that kind of pressure, is just like remind myself like, dang, I get to do this. Like I got to fly across the country and like put myself through 13 minutes of pure agony, because the first 15 seconds are going to feel pretty good, I assume.
Yeah. You'd hope.
Yeah, so
you're here for a bad race.
I mean, it happens. At the Road 5K champs, I like within 50 meters was like, oh no.
Oh, God.
You just kind of gut it out, and then you end up doing what you can on the day.
Yeah, I've been there. I've been there.
Oh,
So
I never
ready to go to the you ready to go to the fun question, or you got any more?
Yeah, sure. If you want to go ahead, get into the serious stuff now.
Right. So Brian, we know the right answer to this question already, but we're not gonna like really tell you until you have time to like reason. You can like bounce ideas off of us if you want. We're here to help, but we do want to see how you kind of logistically go with this. So I'm gonna share my screen with you really quickly, and here we go.
All right.
So we have your thing open because we were stalking you. So
Oh,
all right.
Right.
Now here it is. What do I look up to get it? It's like, oh, here I got it. You've probably already thought about this, yeah. But we need to know what you think because you said you wanted thought-provoking, fun questions. So we're gonna ask. Now you have time to kind of brainstorm a little bit. Let us know what you're thinking. And for those of you that are watching, this is a very famous, very, very famous question. So it's pick 2 to defend you, and the rest are coming to kill you. And it's a bunch of animals. So it's 50 hawks, 10 alligators. No, that's golden eagles. 50 golden eagles, 10 alligators, 3 brown bears, 7 bulls, 1 man with a shotgun or some type of rifle. I'm assuming it has a scope. So
It looks like a shotgun. Yeah, that's it.
with the shotgun,
That
that
doesn't
guy's
look like it's
useless.
got a scope.
Okay, so that changes everything.
Useless. He's not on my team. Don't worry about it.
Okay, gotcha.
He's probably drunk. He's not aiming too well.
Yeah, he probably just got back from like NASCAR or something. And then we got 15 wolves, 4 lions, 5 gorillas, and 10,000 rats. So, Brian, got it. I know it's a big one.
Okay, so I think, and this might be controversial,
Okay.
but I think I'm gonna pick one of them as the 10,000 rats.
Okay.
10,000 is so many rats.
Wholeheartedly.
So what I'm kind of thinking, I'm thinking on terms of like, Super Smash Bros, right? You got if you got a team, you got one that's like packing on a ton of damage, but like can't really send you anywhere, and then you got another like Ganondorf that's just like, and you're gone, right? So the rats, 10,000 boyos to just go out there and just deal a lot of little damage, and then I'm thinking 5 gorillas.
Okay.
Because they're my Ganondorfs, like they're gonna send you off the map.
That definitely is a close thing to Ganondorf up here.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, would you like to know our reasoning that we've kind of concluded? We've had this conversation. I've had this conversation probably 50 times with 100 different people. So here's you're 100% on the money. Everyone I've ever talked to, and I had this conversation with a biology professor here who does a lot of really high-level science stuff, and he said you have 0 shot if you don't pick the rats. 0 shot.
Okay, good.
Okay, so everyone has unanimously agreed you need the rats, and it's a hard thing to it's kind of like deciding you're going to go to a college that's not as sexy because it's the right fit. You need the rats. But
I mean, the only hard counter to the rats is the hawks.
Right. And so that's a great segue. So
10,000.
Exactly.
If you have 50 hawks,
That's
like
100 hawks.
10,000. That's ridiculous.
So the math on the rats, like there are message boards you can go on. It's over a ton of rats, like in weight.
Right. That's
So
like a core of rats.
Right, exactly. So you need it. And then the other thing is you can't survive if you don't pick the eagles. You can't. Because each eagle has 3-inch talons, and they can drop at about 200 miles an hour when they just drop from the sky. So from the deep intellectual conversations that I've had about it, my biology friend, right, exactly. He said that like you really only have a chance, and you're still probably your chances are slim.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know who's protecting you from the lions still, to be real.
The eagles.
Or the bears.
See, that's the thing. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, I was kind of thinking, okay, I don't want to go against the gorillas. Like, gorillas, like, people sleep on gorillas. Them boyos can destroy you. Like,
right.
They're so strong. It's like, I'm mainly thinking I don't want to go against them. It's a very good point about the eagles, though. Like, they could pack some damage. Right.
And they're also fast. And it wouldn't be as big of a deal if it was like 10 eagles. But 50?
No, 50 is a lot of eagles. They were a close second, but I was mainly just thinking like I need something that's gonna fight off those bears, that's gonna fight off those gorillas,
Yeah.
the bulls. Like,
Right.
you know, I was just thinking, you know, I don't want to go against them. I'll pick them. But you got a good point. That's 50 Eagles.
I think exactly, and I think a big thing here is that like there are some trains where you won't have a chance. Like, so if the whole thing is like you're starting and they're all like 50 feet away from you, there's nothing you can pick to win.
Yeah,
because like
for sure.
the wolves are going to get you, like the lions are going to get you, something's going to happen. But let's say we're in an open grassland, and let's say everybody starts a half mile away from you. The alligators at that point become not a factor.
I mean, you're an idiot if you picked that.
Yo, alligators can run like 30 miles an hour. Don't sleep on them.
That's true. They can run pretty fast, but I just think that the Eagles could,
periods of time.
Right, and I think the Eagles could take care of business there. The bison or the buffalo are going to be a problem. The bulls, that's going to be a problem because they're fast and they're strong and they're durable. But like, there's really no, and the wolves are going to be a problem. 15 wolves.
Yeah.
But it's just like, for me, it's literally just if you don't pick the rats and the eagles, I don't think you have a chance because nothing can kill those eagles on this board.
You know what? I will raise you a separate question. This is one that we bounce around this house a lot, and it is kind of in this vein. All right. So you've got 10 average men, right? Just 10 average men.
Okay.
In an arena, nothing in there. It's just pure dirt. It's like hemmed in, maybe a quarter mile, like a track, right? Like a football stadium, but like big walls. 10 dudes, one polar bear. Who wins that fight?
Ooh, so when we say average, are we talking about like?
See, and that's the thing. That's the thing. That's why we like go back and forth. It's like, okay, 10 like relatively fit dudes. Like not American average, because the American average skews in a certain direction.
But these guys are going to eat potato chips trying to find a polar bear.
like just to say, like pretty fit dudes, like not like nobody's like a Marine or anything like that. But like, you know, maybe a couple of them have ROTC history. Maybe a couple of them are just like fitness enthusiasts.
Yeah, played like football in high school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm taking the polar bear. Like I just don't see what you can really do to like kill a polar bear with your bare hands. Like, even if you have 10 people, they have like that thick layer of fat and flesh around them. Like you're not strong enough to choke it out. You can't maybe if you like distract them, if you're willing to sacrifice some people at first and like just go for the eyes, like I think then you probably got a shot. But realistically, no one's gonna make that sacrifice. So I think
what
at the end of the day, the polar bear is gonna pick them off.
So here's the thing, like that I'm stuck on. The level of teamwork that it would take for 10 normal people to take down a polar bear. I'm not saying it's not possible. Like if you get 10 average people that have been best friends for 40 years and all 10 of them are willing to die to kill the polar bear, I think you could do it. But I just think the sheer level of teamwork that it would take to take down the polar bear, I think like 9 out of 10 times the polar bear will win.
I am right there with you. I would even say so far as going like, 19 times out of 20, the polar bear wins. This is good. This is like a hot topic of debate, and especially with Aaron. Aaron is like, no, 10 guys take a polar bear. Like that's you don't understand the human spirit and everybody's desire. Like their life or death, they have to kill this polar bear. They're gonna do it. And I'm like, dude, like polar bears got like 5-inch long claws and 4 inches of fat. Like even if you were to somehow blind it, like it in a blind fury swinging around is gonna take you out. Like it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna go the way you want it, dude.
Yeah,
so I'm like you. I'm on that side.
Yeah, I feel like using the human spirit as an argument doesn't really work when there's an environment where you can't build anything. That's like what makes humans so powerful.
I'll tell you this, he's pretty persuasive, but I've never conceded on this point. 10 people do not beat a polar bear.
I would love to have this discussion with Aaron. I think we could have a good man.
I think he would do his best to bring you onto his side, but man, I don't see it.
Well, I just have a hard time rationalizing that 10 average people. Now, if you said 10 Marines without weapons, I still have a hard time. Like, if you're in the in this dirt area without weapons, there's almost nothing you can do to the polar bear.
If you add in a few like basic tools and supplies about, I think that changes it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, like I mean, if you make it like some sort of situation where it's like, okay, you crash land into the Arctic and now you have everything that could conceivably be in a plane at your disposal to fight this polar bear. Like, yeah, that's a different story. But that's the thing, is like this scenario is like, okay, you like gates come up, you come out, polar bear on the other side of the ring. Like, do they win or not?
Yeah, I mean, that's some Thor Ragnarok stuff.
This is you. Now you possibly use this question in the future.
That's true.
Yeah.
We can use that in the
There you
future.
go.
Can you hear us, Brian? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. We lost you there for a second.
No. All right.
Yeah, there's a little lag.
I think we're good.
Well, I'm back.
Yeah. Better than ever.
Baby.
That's a really good question. I'm going to propose that to the team later. We'll see what they say.
We should have some interesting responses from our teammates.
Shoot me a text and let me know what they say.
Yeah.
I think you'll be very interested to hear our team's discussion on well, I brought the animal thing to the team, and I got like, it was not reasonable how upset I was getting, because like we had people that were like, if I'm going with the human and the alligators, and I'm like, why? And they're like, well, my uncle's a pretty good shot, and I've seen alligators in person. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, me too. That's what makes me not want to choose them. These are idiots.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so what gun do you think this guy has? Do you think he has like the ray gun from Call of Duty? Like, how are you? Yeah, this dude has the needler. Like, okay, I can understand why you would pick him, but like,
He's got like a double-barrel shotgun.
yeah, he probably has 2 shots, and you're not hitting a single eagle with a shotgun. Not a single one of those things is going down. Like, maybe one, and now you have 49 eagles trying to kill you.
Even if you get both shots onto the gorilla, homeboy's not going down.
Right.
Or the bears. I mean, bears are hardly phased by that either. You can't do anything.
Brian, this was super fun.
Yeah, dude. Thank you. I really appreciate you guys having me on. It was a great conversation to have with you guys.
Yeah.
It was fun, insightful. I feel like I learned a lot.
Yes. So this is the Hobby Jogger Experience. I'm Adam Cortez.
I'm Graham Callahan.
This is Brian Barazza. He's racing next week. So if you're watching this, be sure to send your support his way. I'm sure you'll be seeing some type of coverage of it on the Tinman Elite YouTube channel. Definitely go subscribe to that. If you're watching this on our YouTube, please subscribe to us. We're going to hope to be consistent with this type of content. We don't have a ton of connections in the running world yet, but we're working really hard to try and get you guys content that you would like to see on a regular basis. Eventually, we're going to start covering what we do here, so that could be interesting too. So just kind of, keep in mind, we're trying to make this consistent. Go look at Tinman Elite. Go look at Brian. Follow him on Instagram, BRazzleDazzle5K. He brings the razzle. He brings the dazzle. He's going to be PRing next weekend in the 5K. And tune in for more. Hopefully we'll have Brian back.